describe Biden at this point in his presidency as in a relatively strong position. He's got a pretty solid approval rating. His approval rating on his handling of the pandemic is his highest marker right now. But when you look at some of the other issues that are on his plate, you do start to see that his approval ratings are a bit weaker. And that there are more questions about his approach. That certainly is the case when it comes to immigration. For these types of speeches, normally you've got all of the lawmakers there, the cabinet, the Supreme Court, guests up to the rafters, and that's not going to be the case. We're going to see lawmakers in masks, socially distanced, very few guests. We are not expecting that all of the lawmakers come. Many Republicans are expected to stay home, to not show up for this address. And so it's going to be, in a lot of ways, this visual representation of the biggest issue on Biden's plate right now, which is this pandemic.
The shadow of crisis has passed, and the state of the union is strong.
I'm hoping that they will limit the responses by the handful of people, relative handful, that are actually there in person. That is so disruptive, and it reinforces partisanship. I think it's one of the reasons we've had the polarization problem we have. So this is a good thing. He'll be able to get across a message without being constantly interrupted by cheers and boos. So the setting is important.
You know, this moment demands urgency. Good ideas and good intentions aren't good enough.
There's the pandemic, and then there's everything else that Democrats would like to see him run on and accomplish, and everything else that he ran on as a candidate. That includes gun control legislation, immigration, voting rights, infrastructure, which is certainly the big next item on his agenda. And the reality, though, is that he doesn't have a very long runway to be able to tackle those issues. Biden did make a lot of big promises to people, and there's a real question of how much of that agenda, how many of those promises he can fulfill, particularly given that he does have that narrow majority in the House and Senate.